best of brahmacharis, exhibited his Brahman effulgence. Thus, he surpassed in beauty that entire assembly, which was filled with great saintly brahmanas. Text number 19. After Lord Shri Vamanadeva sent a sacrificial fire, he offered worship and performed a fire sacrifice on the sacrificial field. Text number 20. When the Lord heard that Bali Maharaja was performing Aswamedha sacrifices under the patronage of Brahmanas belonging to the Brigu dynasty, the Supreme Lord, who was full in every respect, proceeded there to show his mercy to Bali Maharaj. By his weight, he pushed down the earth with every step. Purport by his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Akila Sara Sambrita. In other words, he is the proprietor of everything essential in this material world. Thus, although the Lord, was going to Bali Maharaj to beg something, he is always complete and has nothing to beg from anyone. Indeed, he is so powerful that in his full opulence he pressed down the surface of the earth at every step. Text 21. While engaged in performing the sacrifice in the field known as Brigu Kacha, on the northern bank of the Narmada River, the Brahminical priests and descendants of Brigu saw Vamanadeva to be like the sun rising nearby. Text 22. O king, because Vamanadeva's bright effulgence, the priests, along with Bali Maharaj and all the members of the assembly, were robbed of their splendor. Thus they began to ask one another whether the sun god himself, Sanat Kumara, or the fire god, had personally come to see the sacrificial ceremony. Text 23. While the priests of the Brigu dynasty and their disciples talked and argued in various ways, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadeva, holding in his hands the rod, the umbrella, and a water pot full of water, entered the arena of the Aswamedha sacrifice. Text 24 and 25. Appearing as a Brahmana boy, wearing a belt of straw, a sacred thread, an upper garment of deerskin, and matted locks of hair, Lord Vamanadeva entered the arena of sacrifice. His brilliant effulgence diminished the brilliance of all the priests and their disciples, who thus stood from their seats and welcomed the Lord properly by offering obeisances. Text 26. Bali Maharaja, jubilant at seeing Lord Vamanadeva, whose beautiful limbs contributed equally to the beauty of his entire body, offered him a seat with great satisfaction. Text 27. Thus offering proper reception to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always beautiful to the liberated souls, Bali Maharaj worshipped him by washing his lotus feet. Text 28. Lord Shiva, the best of demigods, who carries on his forehead the emblem of the moon, receives on his head with great devotion the Ganges water emanating from the toe of Vishnu. Being aware of religious principles, Bali Maharaja knew this. Consequently, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva, he also placed on his head the water that had washed the Lord's lotus feet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva is known as Gangadhara, or one who carries the water of the Ganges on his head. On Lord Shiva's forehead is the emblem of the half moon. Yet to give supreme respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva placed the water of the Ganges above this emblem. This example should be followed by everyone, or at least by every devotee, because Lord Shiva is one of the Mahajanas. Similarly, Maharaja Bali also later became a Mahajana. One Mahajana follows another Mahajana, and by following the Parampara system of Mahajana activities, one can become advanced in spiritual consciousness. The water of the Ganges is sanctified because it emanates from the toe of Lord Vishnu. Bali Maharaja washed the lotus feet of Vamanadeva, and the water with which he did so, equal to the Ganges, became equal to the Ganges. Bali Maharaja, who perfectly knew all religious principles, therefore took that water on his head, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva. Text 29. Bali Maharaja then said to Lord Vamanadeva, O Brahmana, I offer you my hearty welcome and my respectful obeisances. Please let me know what we may do for you. We think of you as the personified austerity of the great Brahmana sages. Text 30. O my Lord, because you have kindly arrived at our home, all my forefathers are satisfied. Our family and entire dynasty have been sanctified, and the sacrifice we are performing is now complete because of your presence. Text number 31. O son of a Brahmana, today the fire of sacrifice is ablaze, according to the injunction of the Shastra, and I have been freed from all sinful reactions of my life by the water that was washed, uh, by the water that has washed your lotus feet, O my Lord. By the touch of your small lotus feet, the entire surface of the world has been sanctified. Wow. Text 32. O son of a Brahmana, it appears that you have come here to ask me for something. Therefore, whatever you want, you may take from me, O best of those who are worshipable. You may take from me a cow, gold, a furnished house, palatable food and drink, the daughter of a Brahmana for your wife, prosperous villages, horses, elephants, chariots, or whatever you desire. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Vamanadeva, the Dwarf Incarnation. Chapter 19. Lord Vamanadeva begs charity from Bali Maharaj. This 19th chapter describes how Lord Vamanadeva asked for 3 paces of land in charity, how Bali Maharaj agreed to his proposal, and how Sukracharya forbade Bali Maharaja to fulfill Lord Vamanadeva's request. When Bali Maharaja, thinking Vamanadeva to be the son of a Brahmana, told him to ask for anything he liked, Lord Vamanadeva praised Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha for their heroic activities, and after this, praising the family in which Bali Maharaj had been born, he begged the king for 3 paces of land. Bali Maharaj agreed to give this land in charity, since this was very insignificant. But Sukracharya, who could understand that Vamanadeva was Vishnu, the friend of the demigods, forbade Bali Maharaj to give this land. Sukracharya advised Bali Maharaj to withdraw his promise. He explained that in subduing others, in joking, in responding to danger, in acting for the welfare of others, and so on, one could refuse to fulfill one's promise, and there would be no fault. By this philosophy, Sukracharya tried to dissuade Bali Maharaj from giving land for Lord Vamanadeva. Text number 1. Sukadeva Goswami continued. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadeva, heard Bali Maharaj speaking in this pleasing way, he was very satisfied. For Bali Maharaj had spoken in terms of religious principles. Thus the Lord began to praise him. Text 2. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O King, you are indeed exalted because you present advisors, because your present advisors are the Brahmanas, who are descendants of Brigu, and because your instructor for your future life is your grandfather, the peaceful and venerable Prahlada Maharaja. Your statements are very true, and they completely agree with the religious etiquette. They are in keeping with the behavior of your family, and they enhance your reputation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prahlad Maharaj is a vivid example of a pure devotee. Someone might argue that since Prahlad Maharaja, even though very old, was attached to his family, and specifically to his grandson Bali Maharaj, how could he be an ideal example? Therefore, this verse uses the word prasanta. A devotee is always sober. He is never disturbed by any conditions. Even if a devotee remains in grihastha life and does not renounce material possessions, he should still be understood to be prasanta, sober, because of his pure devotion to the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said, Kibavitra Kibanyasi Sudra Keninaya, Ye Krishna Tattvavita, Say Guru Haya. Whether one is a Brahmana, a sannyasi, or Sudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8, 128. Anyone completely aware of the science of Krishna, regardless of his status in life, is a guru. Thus, Prahlada Maharaj is a guru in all circumstances. Here, his lordship Vamanadeva also teaches sannyasis and brahmacharis that one should not ask more than necessary. He wanted only 3 pieces of land, although Bali Maharaj wanted to give him anything he wanted. Text 3. I know that even until now, no one taking birth in your family has been poor minded or miserly. No one has refused to give charity to Brahmanas, nor after promising to give charity has anyone failed to fulfill his promise. Text number 4. O King Bali, never in your dynasty has the low minded king been born who, upon being requested, has refused charity to Brahmanas in holy places or a fight to Kshatriyas on a battlefield. And your dynasty is even more glorious due to the presence of Prahlada Maharaja, who is like the beautiful moon in the sky. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The symptoms of a Kshatriya are given in Bhagavad Gita. One of the qualifications is the willingness to give charity, dana. A Kshatriya does not refuse to give charity when requested by a Brahmana, nor can he refuse to fight another Kshatriya. A king who does refuse is called low minded. In the dynasty of Bali Maharaja, there were no such low minded kings. Text number 5. It was in your dynasty that Hiranyaksha was born, carrying only his own club. He wandered the globe alone, without assistance, to conquer all directions, and no hero he met could rival him. Text number 6. When delivering the earth from the Garbhodaka sea, Lord Vishnu, in his incarnation as a boar, killed Hiranyaksha, who had appeared before him. The fight was severe, and the Lord killed Hiranyaksha with great difficulty. Later, as the Lord thought about the uncommon prowess of Hiranyaksha, he felt himself victorious indeed. Text number 7. When Hiranyakashipu heard the news of his brothers being killed, with great anger, he went to the residence of Vishnu, the killer of his brother, wanting to kill Lord Vishnu. Text 8. Seeing Hiranyakashipu coming forward, bearing a trident in his hand, like personified death, Lord Vishnu, the best of all mystics and the knower of the progress of time, thought as follows. Wheresoever I go, Hiranyakashipu will follow me, as death follows all living entities. Therefore, it is better for me to enter the core of his heart. For then, because of his power to see only it externally, he will not see me. He's going to hide in the body of Hiranyakashipu. Very interesting. Lord Vamanadeva continued, O king of the demons, after Lord Vishnu made this decision, he entered the body of his enemy, Hiranyakashipu, who was running after him with great force. In a subtle body, inconceivable to Hiranyakashipu, Lord Vishnu, who was in great anxiety, entered Hiranyakashipu's nostril along with his breath. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is already in the core of everyone's heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutana, heard they say, Originatistati, Bhagavad Gita 1861. Logically, therefore, it is not at all difficult for Lord Vishnu to enter Hiranyakashipu's body. The word Vivekana Cheta, very anxious, is significant. It is not that Lord Vishnu was afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Rather, because of compassion, Lord Vishnu was in anxiety about how to act for his welfare. Oh, that's very nice. Text 11. Upon seeing that the residence of Lord Vishnu was vacant, Hiranyakashipu began searching for Lord Vishnu everywhere. Angry at not seeing him, Hiranyakashipu screamed loudly and searched the entire universe, including the surface of the earth, the higher planetary systems, all the directions, and all the theories and oceans. But Hiranyakashipu, the greatest hero, did not see Vishnu anywhere. That's because Vishnu was what? In his body. He was hiding in his body. Okay. Text 12. Unable to see him, Hiranyakashipu said, I have searched the entire universe, but I could not find Vishnu, who has killed my brother. Therefore, he must certainly have gone to that place from which no one returns. In other words, he must now be dead. No, he's not dead. Not at all. Purport. Atheists generally follow the Bodha philosophy conclusion that at death everything is finished. Hiranyakashipu, being an atheist, thought this way. Because Lord Vishnu was not visible to him, he thought that the Lord was dead. Even today, many people follow the philosophy that God is dead, but God is never dead. Even a living entity who is part of God never dies. Najayate mriyate va kadachit. For the soul, there is never birth or death. This is the statement of Bhagavad Gita 2.20. Even the ordinary living entity never takes birth or dies. What then is to be said of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the chief of all living entities? He certainly never takes birth or dies. Ajopi san avyayatma Bhagavad Gita 4.6. Both the Lord and the living entity exist as unborn and inexhaustible personalities. Thus, Hiranyakashipu's conclusion that Vishnu was dead was wrong. As indicated by the words, Yato Navartate Uman, there is certainly a spiritual kingdom. And if the living entity goes there, he never returns to this material world. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Chak Vadeham Punar Janma Naiti Mam Eti Sorjuna. Materially speaking, Every living entity dies. Death is inevitable. But those who are karmis, jnanis, and yogis return to this material world after death, whereas the bhaktas do not. Of course, if a bhakta is not completely perfect, he takes birth in the material world again, but in a very exalted position, either in a rich family or a family of the purest Brahmins. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe, just to finish his development in spiritual consciousness. Those who have completed the course of Krishna consciousness and are free from material desire return to the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yagyatva nivartante tadama paramam mama. Here, the same fact is stated. Yato nivartate pramam. Any person who goes back home, back to Godhead, does not return to this material world. That's good news. Text 13. Hiranyakashipu's anger against Lord Vishnu persisted until his death. Other people in the bodily concept of life maintain anger only because of false ego and the great influence of ignorance. Purport. Generally speaking, even though the conditioned soul is angry, his anger is not perpetual, but temporary. It is due to the influence of ignorance. Hiranyakashipu, however, maintained his enmity and his anger against Lord Vishnu until the point of death. He never forgot his vengeful attitude toward Vishnu for having killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. Others in the bodily concept of life are angry at their enemies, but not at Lord Vishnu. Hiranyakashipu, however, was everlastingly angry. He was angry not only because of false prestige, but also because of continuous enmity toward Vishnu. Wow, I'm glad, I'm glad he's not around now. Very, very adamant person. Text 14. Your father, Virochana, the son of Maharaja Prahlada, was very affectionate toward the Brahmins, although he knew very well that it was the demigods who had come to him in the dress of Brahmanas. At their request, he delivered to them the duration of his life. At their request, he delivered to them the duration of his life. Okay, that's very, very generous. Maharaj Virochana, Bali's father, was so pleased with the Brahmana community that even though he knew that those approaching him for charity were the demigods in the dress of Brahmanas, he nonetheless agreed to give it. Text 15. You also have observed the principles followed by great personalities who are householder Brahmanas, by your forefathers and by great heroes who are extremely famous for their exalted activities. Text 16. O King of the Daityas, from your majesty, who come from such a noble family and who are able to give charity munificently, I ask only 3 paces of land to the measurement of my steps. Purport. Lord Vamanadeva wanted 3 paces of land according to the measurement of his footsteps. He did not want more than necessary. But Although he pretended to be an ordinary human child, he actually wanted the land comprising the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. This was just to show the prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 17. O King, controller of the entire universe, although you are very beneficent and are able to give me as much land as I want, I do not want anything from you that is unnecessary. If a learned Brahmana takes charity from others only according to his needs, he does not become entangled in sinful activities. Very profound statement. We should never, never be glutton. In other words, never satisfied. We should accept whatever we're destined to have and be satisfied with that. Purport. A Brahmana or sannyasi is qualified to ask charity from others, but if he takes more than necessary, he is punishable. No one can use more of the Supreme Lord's property than necessary. Lord Vamanadeva indirectly indicated to Bali Maharaj that he was occupying more land than he needed. In the material world, all distresses are due to extravagance. Wow, that's a wonderful statement. In the material world, all distresses are due to extravagance. That's a very profound statement. One acquires money extravagantly and also spends it extravagantly. Such activities are sinful. All property belongs to the Supreme Personality of God, and all living beings who are sons of the Supreme Lord have the right to use the Supreme Father's property, but one cannot take more than necessary. In other words, you have to take the minimum. This principle should especially be followed by Brahmanas and sannyasis who live at the cost of others. Thus, Ramanadeva was an ideal beggar, for he asked only 3 paces of land. Of course, there is a difference between his footsteps and those of an ordinary human being. The Supreme Personality Godhead, by his inconceivable prowess, can occupy the entire universe, including the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems, by the unlimited measurement of his footsteps. 1 second. Bali Maharaj said, O son of a Brahmin, your instructions are as good as those of learned and elderly persons. Nonetheless, you are a boy, and your intelligence is insufficient. Thus, you are not very prudent in regard to your self-interests. That sounds like he's not greedy. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being full in himself, actually has nothing to want for his self-interest. Lord Vamanadeva, therefore, had not gone to Bali Maharaj for his own self-interest. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Bhaktaram Yajitapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The Lord is the proprietor of all planets, in both the material and spiritual worlds. Why should he be in want of land? Bali Maharaj rightly said that Lord Vamanadeva was not at all prudent in regard to his own personal interests. Lord Vamanadeva had approached Bali not for his personal welfare, but for the welfare of his devotees. Devotees sacrifice all personal interests to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And similarly, the Supreme Lord, although having no personal interest, can do anything for the interests of his devotees. One who is full in himself has no personal interests. Okay, that means that genuine devotees who are satisfied simply by engaging in devotional service do not ask for anything else. That's the sign of a genuine devotee. Text 19. I am able to give you an entire island because I am the proprietor of the three divisions of the universe. You have come to take something from me and have pleased me by your sweet words, but you are asking only 3 paces of land. Therefore, you are not very intelligent. Okay, but wait now and see what's going to happen. According to Vedic understanding, the entire universe is regarded as an ocean of space. In that ocean, there are innumerable planets, and each planet is called Dvipa, or island. When approached by Lord Vamanadeva, Bali Maharaja was actually in possession of all the Dvipas, or islands in space. Bali Maharaja was very pleased to see the features of Vamanadeva and was ready to give him as much land as he could ask. But because Lord Vamanadeva asked only 3 paces of land, Bali Maharaja considered him not very intelligent. Okay, just wait and see what's going to happen now. He's the most intelligent. Text 20. Oh, small boy, one who approaches me to beg something should not have to ask anything more anywhere. Therefore, if you wish, you may ask from me as much land as will suffice to maintain you according to your needs. Text number 21. The personality of Godhead said, oh, my dear king, even the entirety of whatever there may be within the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled. Yes. So many people are greedy and never satisfied. Purport. The material world is an illusory energy to deviate the living entities from the path of self-realization. That's so true. Anyone who is in this material world is extremely anxious to get more and more things for sense gratification. Actually, however, the purpose of life is not sense gratification, but self-realization. There, that's a wonderful statement. Actually, however, the purpose of life is not sense gratification, but self-realization. Therefore, those who are too addicted to sense gratification are advised to practice the mystic yoga system or Ashtanga yoga system, consisting of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and so on. In this way, one can control the senses. The purpose of controlling the senses is to stop one's implication in the cycle of birth and death. As stated by Rishabhadev, Nunam Pramata Kunate Vikarma. yad Indriya Pritaya Aprinuti Nasadu Manye Yata Atmano Yam Asan Api Klesada Asadeha. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it therefore therefore I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.4. Thus, according to Vishabhadeva, the human beings in this material world are just like madmen, engaged in activities which they should not perform, but which they do perform only for sense gratification. Such activities are not good because, in this way, one creates another body for his next life as punishment for his nefarious activities. And as soon as he gets another material body, he is put into repeated suffering in material existence. Therefore, the Vedic culture or Brahminical culture teaches one how to be satisfied with possessing the minimum necessities in life. Very important statement. Therefore, the Vedic culture or Brahminical culture teaches one how to be satisfied with possessing the minimum necessities of life. To teach this highest culture, Varnashrama Dharma, is recommended. The aim of the Varnashrama divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, Brahmacharya, Vihasta, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, is to train one to control the senses and be content with the bare necessities. That's a very important statement. Here, Lord Vamanadeva, as an ideal brahmachari, refuses Bali Maharaj's offer to give him anything he might want. He says that without contentment, one could not be happy, even if he possessed the property of the entire world or the entire universe. Yeah, there's no limit to the greed that a person can have. In human society, therefore, the Brahminical culture, Kshatriya culture, and Vaishya culture must be maintained, and people must be taught how to be satisfied with only what they need. In modern civilization, there is no such education. Everyone tries to possess more and more, and everyone is dissatisfied and unhappy. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore establishing various forms, especially in America, to show how to be happy and content with minimum necessities of life and to save time for self realization, which one can very easily achieve by chanting the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I like this very much. Prabhupada writes, the Krishna consciousness movement is therefore establishing various farms, especially in America, to show how to be happy and content with minimum necessities of life and to save time for self realization, which one can very easily achieve by chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare. Yeah, save time for self realization. That should be our motto. Save time for uh, self realization. Text 22. If I were not satisfied with 3 paces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of 9 Varsas. Even if I possessed one island, I would hope to get others. There's no limit to greed. Text 23. We have heard that although powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya achieved proprietorship over the 7 Dvipas, they could not achieve satisfaction or find the end of their ambitions. Wow, that's a terrible situation to be in. Text 24. One should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. Well, now we're getting to real wisdom. One should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self controlled will not be happy even with possessing the 3 worlds. There it is. They never become satisfied. Purport. If happiness is the ultimate goal of life, one must be satisfied with the position in which he is placed by providence. This instruction is also given by Bhavada Maharaj. Sukham aitri yakam daitya deha yogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivad yata dukam ayat natar. My dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Bhagavatam 7.6.3. This philosophy is perfect in regard to obtaining happiness. Real happiness is described in Bhagavad Gita 6.21. Sukham ait yantakam yat talat buddhigrayam achendriyam veta yatra nachayvayam sthitas chalati tatpata. In a spiritually joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. One has to perceive happiness by the super senses. The super senses are not the senses of the material elements. Every one of us is a spiritual being, Aham Brahmasmi, and every one of us is an individual person. Our senses are now covered by the material elements, and because of ignorance, we consider the material senses that cover us to be our real senses. The real senses, however, are within the material covering. Dehinosmin gita dehe Within the covering of the material elements are the spiritual senses. Sarvapadimimirvatam tatparatmena nirmalam. When the spiritual senses are uncovered, by these senses we can be happy. Satisfaction of the spiritual senses is thus described. Krishikena Rishikesha Sevamo Bhakti Uchate. When the senses are engaged in devotional service to Rishikesha, then the senses are completely satisfied. Without the superior knowledge of sense gratification, one may try to satisfy his senses, but happiness will never be possible. One may increase his ambition for sense gratification and even achieve what he desires for the gratification of his senses. But because this is on the material platform, he will never achieve satisfaction and contentment. According to Brahminical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor and should cultivate spiritual consciousness. Then he will be happy. The purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to spread this understanding. People who do not have scientific spiritual knowledge mistakenly think that the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are escapists trying to avoid material activities. In fact, however, we are engaged in real activities for obtaining the ultimate happiness in life. If one is not trained to satisfy the spiritual senses and continues in material sense gratification, he will never obtain happiness that is eternal and blissful. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.1 therefore recommends Tapo Divyam Putrakayena Sattvam Sudaya Yasmat Brahma Sukham Pranantam. One must practice austerity so that his existential position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. Well, very important. One must practice austerity so that his existential position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. Okay, I think we are at the end. So, are there any questions or comments? A lot of very profound things have been said in today's lecture. So, does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, our takeaway for today. According to Brahminical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor and should cultivate spiritual consciousness. Then he will be happy. The purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to spread this understanding. Okay, so that is a Brahminical culture. In Brahminical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor and should cultivate spiritual consciousness. Then he will be happy. There it is. The purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement is to spread this understanding. People do not have scientific spiritual knowledge mistakenly think that the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are escapists trying to avoid material activities. In fact, however, they are engaged in real activities for obtaining the ultimate happiness in life. If one is not trained to satisfy the spiritual senses and continues in material sense gratification, he will never obtain happiness that is eternal and blissful. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.1 therefore recommends Tapodivyam Putrika Yena Sattvam Sudayed Yasmat Brahma Sukham Anantam. One must practice austerity so that his existential position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. Okay, so we have to engage in austerity so that our position in life will be purified and we will achieve unlimited blissful life. Okay, that is our takeaway for today. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Are there any questions or comments, my dear devotees? Okay, so the wonderful takeaway for today is Tapo Divyam Putrika Yena Sattvam Sudayet Yasmat Brahma Sokyam Tvanantam. One must practice austerity so that his existential position, that's a big word, existential, means his real position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. Nothing could be better than this. Sudayat Yasmat Brahma Sokyam Tvanantam. One must practice austerity so that his existential position, that means that so that the condition that he is in, that is meant for him, will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. I pray that all nice devotees will achieve this wonderful, uh, uh, wonderful condition, practicing austerity so that one's existential position or real position will be purified and he or she will achieve unlimited blissful life. What a great statement that is. Just shows how merciful Krishna is. One must practice austerity so that his existential position will be purified and he will achieve unlimited blissful life. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, no questions, no comments. We will adjourn and pick it up again in later uh, uh, later today. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And the best way to be happy is practice austerity so that our existential position will be purified and we will achieve unlimited blissful life. What a wonderful statement to end our seance today. Hare Krishna.
Mm. Wow. Mm. Oh, are you not well, Maharaj?
Sure, sir.
Oh, okay. So, you want to rest for some more time?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, my throat is not working properly. Give me a call 2 days from now. No.
99% accuracy. All I did was place my finger on the sensor and in seconds got a
Okay, it will rest, but I wanted to